Welcome to Bridging the Gap, If These Walls Could Talk. Today I have with us Zeta Billman from Lux 10. Zeta, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Today
Likewise.
we're going to be bringing Chris Law from Law Construction on. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Glad to have you here today, Chris. Really interested to dig into your business. Bridging the gap, if these walls could talk. So I know in the Pittsburgh market, in the home space that you're in, you're going to have a ton of stuff to talk to us about. So if you could introduce yourself, tell us about your business and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Chris Law. I'm owner and operator of Law Construction. We've been in the business for approximately about 35 years because my dad is also in the business. About approximately 6 years ago, he was sitting on the back porch and was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about kind of joining with me and doing construction with me?" I'm like, you know what? I like real estate, like construction, been doing it for a good amount of time since I was like the age 10. I was like, yeah, let's do it. So joined forces then and kind of been going through ever since then.
Okay. So I think looking on your website, you said 10 years old. So what were you doing at 10?
Yeah, so
What was that? You were just running around with dad and you
yeah,
were kind of the
yeah,
go for this, go for that?
yeah. I mean, honestly, I've been on a roof since I was like 10. I was putting trim up since I was 10, painting, anything I could help. And obviously, he paid me probably like, I don't know, like $2 an hour or something, or hey, I'll take you out to lunch. And when I was younger, I honestly didn't like construction at all. When he was like, hey, Saturday morning we're going to this job site and you're going to help me sweep. I'm like, this sucks, you know. And as I grew up and started getting older, I realized how much this construction industry actually helps other people around the world and homeowners, business owners, that type of things. Like they're needed. Hey, your toilet breaks. You need someone to put a toilet in. You need to call somebody to do that. Hey, you need a full renovation in your house. You need to call somebody to do that. And it was needed, and I thought that, hey, let's do it. So.
That's awesome. Zita, when you're talking to contractors, because I know in your business, being a realtor, bringing people into houses, what's the biggest experience engaging somebody in that space for you?
Yeah, I think that certainly when someone's buying a home, they can get a little overwhelmed on, not sure if they have the right contacts or how much things are going to cost and like just where to start. I mean, as you know, with homes in Pittsburgh, we have we have an older homes that a lot of people just need some updating and they're just not even sure where to start and they can be intimidated. So I think being able to have the opportunity to refer those customers to someone that they feel confident that can get the job done and they feel like they're being fair and honest and the price is manageable. Those are probably the biggest things, and me being able to pass that along like through Lux 10, that's what's been exciting for me, is just like that go-to.
Right.
It makes it easy, and then people feel confident because they're like, oh, I can see the whole history on the person. It's not just a name and a text.
Right.
It's a whole profile. So yeah, so that's what I have found that it's been the biggest asked question and the easiest process has come about through Lux 10. So.
Yeah. So Chris, tell us about like what do you guys specialize in? Like what's the, kind of your niche that you have? I mean, I know you guys do a ton of stuff, right? So
Yeah, we do a ton of stuff. Anything from roofing, windows, full renovations, stuff like that. How we look at it, we're basically a one-stop shop for everything construction. But what we really specialize in and getting more into as I'm getting more into the real estate space, because I also am a real estate investor, have some rentals, and then I do some flips also on the side. Is I'm working with a lot of investors from New Jersey, California, Florida, just all over the world. I have partnerships and friends in the real estate space, just like Zeta, who will refer me to say, hey, can you walk this property before I buy it, see what the numbers look like after, if the numbers work, okay, here's the work, get it done, and then they sell it for my investor. So we've been doing a lot more of that. And then we do a lot of roofs as well. We're starting to get into more of the roofing space. And do more of those type of things, but mostly full renovations for really, really ugly homes. And then a lot more roofs, windows, siding, gutters, that type of stuff. So.
Okay.
And then we do some additions and trying to get more into the, like I said, full build into like apartments. I know I talked to you a little bit
Yeah.
about that. Some apartment buildings trying to work into that niche. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that ADU space is really unique, and
Yeah.
you know, it's either a fit for people or it's not. And I mean, I think as your business continues to grow, like that's definitely an avenue that you could get into. So
yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm sure you know too, when you're looking at ROI or you're trying to really maximize the amount of profit you're going to make in a rental. If you say you buy a house for, I don't know, 200 grand, you can rent it for $2,000 a month. If you can build an ADU in the back that's a 1 bed, 1 bath, hey, that's an extra $1,500 a month. That costs you maybe 40 grand to build. Okay, now these numbers work, and you can kind of work through that. So we do a lot of that type of things, and we're working through contracts on building like a bigger building to make it into apartments.
So you mentioned some out-of-state,
Yeah.
like investors. Do you have a lot of people that are from out-of-state that are trying to invest here in Pittsburgh that you're working with directly?
Yeah, that it's most of them. Most of them are out of state, because in those markets, like I said, I was in New York City last week, and we were actually looking at the real estate there. You look at those houses, you're buying a really small, probably like a 3 bed, 2 bath house for $3 million.
Sure.
Versus in the Pittsburgh market, you can buy that for $150,000, put $150,000 into it. You're paying $300,000, and then you can either sell it or you can rent it and actually make some money on it. So these investors from California that have a little bit more income because they're getting paid higher, they can put that into the Pittsburgh market and start having a portfolio here.
We'll have to talk because I have some clients from California that are
Yeah.
looking to do just that.
No,
and-
absolutely.
Yeah.
that's good. Well, I've never seen that happen here on the show.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
great connection that's happened here. So
Yeah,
I guess we
definitely.
got the right guest today.
Yes,
Exactly.
we do. It's perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Hey, so Chris, take me back. So, like, I know you grew up in construction. It wasn't really something that you were super excited about. Like, when was the in between? Like, I think you were in corporate America. You had some workings there. How did Dad reel you back into the business?
Yeah, so actually, I'll take it even a little bit further. When I was in college, so I played baseball at Seton Hill University, and I got hurt my sophomore year and was out for the entire season. So I actually had a 5th year that I could have used, which would have been the COVID year.
Okay.
So my senior year, so this is my 4th year, not my 5th year. I was just going through just class and everything, expecting to come back for my 5th year and get into just the real world after that. And I listened to a podcast actually on bigger pockets. I don't know why, it just like came up on my feed, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, let's just click on it. And it talked
Was
about
it that drive back from Seton Hill home?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Anything seems better, right?
Yeah, exactly, something like that. And when I listened to it, it just really kind of changed my mindset on how real estate can really make generational wealth. And that made my mind start thinking about, okay, this might make sense for me in the future. So I actually called my dad.
Oh,
Sorry,
there you go.
I don't know. I don't even know what happened there. Sorry about that. And so when that happened, I called my dad and I was like, hey, like, what are your thoughts on me kind of just going into the workforce and just being done with school after this? He was I support whatever decision you make, but honestly, I support you going into the workforce. So I was like, okay. So after I was done with school, I started working at Highmark.
Okay.
And while I worked at Highmark, I worked at GNC on the side, and then I also valeted as well.
Okay.
So I worked 3 jobs all at one time to save up enough money. I think I saved up $20,000 to buy my first property in Bakerstown, like close to Gibsonia, like Pine
Okay.
Richland area.
Yep.
It was a duplex. I bought it for $120,000, and I lived in one side, rented out the back. So I made like $1,000 a month from the back. So I didn't have any living expenses at all. While I was doing that, I put like $5,000 into the back to make it really nice. About a year later, I cash out refied it, got my money out of it, and then bought another house. And when that happened, I was like, okay, this is construction, real estate. I really like this. My dad's in the construction industry. I'm like, why am I in the corporate world when I can do this full time. I see my dad. My dad's been doing this for 35 years now. Obviously, he makes a decent living, you
Right.
know, doing his thing. So I was like, might make sense. So we were just having dinner one night out on the back porch, and we kind of just started talking about it, and we launched it from there, and we went on. So.
Well, he was probably like, I thought you'd never ask,
Yeah,
right?
no, literally.
And you know
yeah.
what? Going through that process, that makes you appreciate it so much more. If he would have like made you do it or said, this
Yeah.
is what you're doing, you probably wouldn't have been where you are today.
No, 100%.
And your mindset.
Yeah,
half the battle, right?
the best thing. I mean, my dad, I love him. He is a little hard on me because that's what you need in the real world,
Right.
honestly. And I'm super thankful on how I was raised. And same with my dad. Same with my brother. He's also in the business too. We can talk about him a little bit later.
Yeah.
But he really supported whatever decision we made. But really gave us that hard love when we ever needed it. And like you said, not pushing me to do construction and say, hey, you have to join the business, you have to do this. I probably would have been like, I'm not doing this. But me coming back and actually getting into it, now I think it's blessed us both. So
Yeah. So I think a lot of times, especially in construction businesses, that second generation is make or break, right? So you've either grown up in it and you want to jump right in, and dad's kind of pulling you in, or it's the opposite of where, you know, they don't want you to be in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's good that you ended up there, but you did it on your own choice, right? It wasn't him, you know, forcing you conversation after conversation. Hey, you're going to be part of this. I think there's an expectation a lot that just, you know, natural migration. You're going to take over the business, right? You're next in line. It's going to be yours one day. You need to learn the trades. You need to learn this. And I don't always think that's the great approach. You know, in top contractor school, we've got a lot of second generation owners. And so I want to dig into that a little bit. I'm kind of curious, from dad having it, starting it, now you've been engaged in the business and have taken over. What's different? You know, what's that outlook look like? You know, over the course of the next few years, 3 to 5 years. You know, what was it when you started? What were you guys doing? How did it transition to now? And you've got probably a different vision than what he does. I'm interested to hear about that.
Yeah. So when I first started in the business, I was digging trenches. I was putting outlets in, painting, putting toilets in, everything, tile, everything. I was doing it. My dad was doing it, and then we had one more worker that worked with us. So it was just like a 3-man band, and we just got started there. Actually, a funny story. My first job ever was we like graded a backyard and put just like grass in and stuff like that. And I got the square footage completely wrong, and that the job should have been like $15,000. I quoted him for like $5,000. So we lost. And the funny thing is like my dad didn't yell at me, didn't scream at me, nothing. He just showed me. He goes, "See, like you have to really know what you're doing before that." That's another thing too. Is I learned a lot from when I first started to what I am, the hard lessons of, okay, losing money, making money, those type of things. But like I said, when I first started, it was me doing a lot of the work, and now I'm doing a lot of the admin work, sales work, and kind of managing the day-to-day operations when it comes to that, because I just don't have the time.
Chris, you probably got a lot of referrals
Yeah.
from that job,
Yeah, I know,
right?
right?
They're like,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
gosh, we got the best job ever, and it was
Yeah.
super reasonable. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, we need to
Yeah.
regroup.
Ask
Yeah,
him for
no.
this deal.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's good. But that's, so I know, just like what Jim was asking, like, how do you feel like, you know, when you look at your dad, when he had this business for all these years and kind of what his path was, where has yours shifted to? Like when
Yeah.
you say your vision of what the company is going to look like down the road, because, you know, when you see these second or third generation of contractors that come in after their parents have had it, and I've seen that over my career where it's just so different than like where the parents had it and now where the kids have taken it. And
Yeah.
just curious, like kind of where your dad had it and what was his main focus and what's yours? Like, where's it shifting towards? I think that's
Yeah.
not as, I mean, obviously you're not really digging the, you know, the trenches anymore,
Yeah.
but just the vision of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's a Pittsburgh guy. He grew up in Lawrenceville, and super blue collar. So he knows the excavation, the concrete work. He likes doing the work and getting that type of thing, those type of things done. Where I come from, like I went to college, I was in the corporate world, so I learned a little bit from that of saying, okay, I'm okay paying this person I don't know, $50 an hour, and then getting $100 an hour from the customer and making that $50, and then continue rolling and then growing the business from that. So when he was doing it, he wanted to stay small. 3-5 guys, I don't know, make $250,000 in revenue every year, pay your bills, and be happy and live a small life. I have a little bit more bigger aspirations when it comes to that. Working with these out-of-state investors and all those different people, it allowed me to build a bigger network and get more referrals because I do a great job for this investor down in California. They probably have a friend that's in that same realm. Okay, then I get their work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My vision for the company is doing that, but then, like I said, I have my flipping business also on the side. I'm trying to get more into doing my own flips and my own stuff, and then also being a consultant for investors out of state to show them, hey, I'll flip this house for you, and then I take a percentage of that, and then growing the company from that. So, and then obviously my roofing company as well. We're really trying to hone in on that because last year we had a really great year in roofing sales, and I see the gap in kind of the Pittsburgh market of how much it should cost to do a roof versus how much other people are charging, and I can fit like right under that to kind of get that business. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, so, you drive around, you see a lot of the bigger roofing companies.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that niche where you feel like there's a good fit for you. So Zeta, I'm curious, as people are buying houses, one of the things that's been in my head is like 1, roofing, and then 2, hardscapes. Like we always talk about if these walls could talk inside, but what about the exterior walls? Like, what do you see from a roofing perspective? Like, do people, when you're doing a walkthrough with them and showing homes, are they concerned about roofs? Like, I know there's an inspection, but what do you see there for like exterior, hardscape, also the roofing? What's that?
Yeah, so it's ironic because right now roofing is a big deal because all of the insurance companies are really cracking down on if a roof is around 15 years old or older, they're trying to push back and say, we're not going to insure this home. So a lot of buyers are having that concern with saying, what are we going to do? Is the seller going to replace it? Like, if it's not actually leaking, how do we handle this?
Right.
So we've been dealing with a good bit of that from the insurance perspective. And actually, if you talk to some of the insurance companies, there's different companies out there saying, well, reach out to me because we have a workaround, or some, other companies are saying it is what it is. We just won't insure you. So people are really having to bounce around. So the roofs are becoming more of a little bit of a pain for us as realtors and homeowners because they're saying, hey, listen, the roof's only 15 years old. This is a 30-year shingle, right? Do we really need to replace this? So we're seeing some of that stuff going on. So the roof piece of it is a conversation. But I think if there was, easy way, obviously, to say, hey, listen, we can give you an estimate on that roof, and it's something that doesn't take a lot of time, and then they have that estimate that they can work through. And sometimes it's a credit, and they can get it done post-close and things like that. But from a hardscape standpoint, everybody wants the curb appeal. Everybody wants the dream backyard, whether it's swimming pool, roof-covered patio, fenced-in yard. I mean, everybody wants that. With our topography here in Pittsburgh, it can be really challenging. So if you find a great yard that's that dream yard, it's like the perfect house. And then it's just trying to figure out, does it fit the budget, right?
That's the big. That's the
but
biggest thing.
hardscape is really big.
Yeah.
And you talked about some of the grading stuff. That's if there was a way. And I don't know if there's a cool way to do it, but a way to even kind of promote that, like bringing in some type of grading, what you can actually do with like a before and after, what you can do with a yard, because I can see vision for customers when I say, like, listen, you own, a point, just under a half an acre, but it doesn't look usable. Like, can you bring in enough dirt, fill, whatever, to expand the yard enough to make it attractive and usable? Right. So, but I think a lot of people get super intimidated, like, oh, it's a cliff. It's not a cliff. I mean, it goes down a grade into some woods. You could clear it out, but what does that look like? So I think a lot of people get intimidated by that. So I think if there was an easy process or an easier process to say, here are some ideas, some suggestions, before and afters, or like a range of price point.
Right.
Those things, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing people want to know about cost, right? Yeah. What does it cost to get this stuff done? Because everybody thinks it's here, where it might be more here, and it's manageable, and it's the difference of buying the house or not. So That's what I see a lot of, like that challenge. So.
Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit, I know you mentioned we'll talk about it. So your brother's in the business, he does welding.
Yeah.
Talk about that and where he fits into the bigger picture for you guys and maybe what he's done previous or what type of welding work he's into.
Yeah, so he actually was a welder by trade. He went to Newcastle Tech,
Okay.
got his welding certificate or whatever, and worked and did welding. And then he saw that my dad and myself are joining forces in the construction industry. He was like, this would be a great idea for me to jump off and join. So that's exactly what he did 6 years ago. Now he really does everything. And with my brother, from where we were to where we are now, without him, I don't think we'd be there, because anything I need, fine trim is extremely, extremely expensive to do.
Yeah.
And him being inside the business, we get it at a little bit of a lower cost. And the work is really great and it's gorgeous, because I'm sure you've probably walked homes and saw trim. It's and the joints aren't lined up right, and the buyers are looking at this like, who put this trim up? If that's not on point, you're not going to sell the house usually, and they're not going to like it. So he right now he works day to day as almost our trim carpenter. Anytime we do a metal railing, he'll weld railings.
Yeah.
Anytime we actually did an addition in Ross Township that we're almost done here, and we actually had to weld on all the joist hangers to the I-beam.
Oh, wow.
And if I didn't have a person who's a welder,
Yeah.
I would be paying, okay, they're going to charge me $125 an hour to be a welder. Okay, I just lost on that whole thing. So
Yeah.
he's really, really great.
So interesting that you say that, because I've got a storage room that's under our garage. It's off of the basement. And I've got some challenges in there right now. We're getting our garage floor resurfaced
Okay.
because it's been leaking down into, and there's the corrugated metal that's below, and so
Okay.
it's starting to rust. And so I want to remediate that, and then I want to go through and frame that and do some insulation and kind of make it more of a warm space instead of a cold cellar. So, but I never thought of welding to the I-beam.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I, without lowering the ceiling, run joists all the way across? Well, if I can go right to that I-beam and then frame it, maybe that's an approach that I could take. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you put a 2x8 behind the joist hanger, so that joist hanger is welded onto the I-beam, and that 2x8's behind it, holding it, so it doesn't sway
Yeah.
or anything like that, and then run your joists. That's a good way to do it. Actually, funny thing that you said about resurfacing, we actually did a job in Gibsonia about, I don't know, 2 months ago. Their drain was actually leaking down through their cold cellar. The
Yep.
same thing, and it was corrugated metal that was all rusted and
Yep.
coming down. So that's what we had to do: cut it down, put stuff up, weld it, paint it, and then it was good.
Yeah.
So that's where we did it about 2 months ago.
That's where I'm at. It's on my list right now.
Yeah, there you
so-
go. Hey, give us a call. You
Yeah,
know?
There you
I got the guy coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
He actually starts at 7 a.m. tomorrow to
There you
grade the garage floor. We're doing the epoxy finish and all those little tiny flecks. And so he says it's like a week before he's got done, and then from there it's a week before we can park on it.
Yeah.
So I got on-street parking for the next 2 weeks. It'll be like I live in the city. So
Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
There you go.
Talk a little bit more about your brother's engagement in the business. Is he doing anything on the sales side, or it's all, the fine detail work? What did the welding kind of lend itself to some of the attention to detail and what he's doing now?
So my brother, he doesn't talk a lot. He's a little bit more quiet. So the sales side, it's just not his niche.
Okay.
His niche is coming to work every day, knowing exactly what to do, has a helper with him, and him doing cabinetry, trim work, any type of metal railings, any fine detail work that needs done at the end of a job or right at the beginning. He gets it done. For instance, I was talking to Zeta about a flip we actually are almost done with in Lawrenceville on 39th Street.
Yeah.
Right now, we reused all of the old character trim, like all the
Okay.
6-inch trim
Yeah.
that needs refinished, like sanded, stained, polished, and everything needs to fit in because we had to take it off and then re-put it on once we did all new drywall. So all those butts that are completely different now because of the new drywall. He has to fit all those in throughout this entire 4,000 square foot house.
Okay.
So he's like doing that and making sure that that's right on that house. And then after he's done with that, okay, we'll move him to another addition or any fine detail work. That is what he's good at.
Okay.
And I found that he's good at it. So he's going to stay there for right now until I'm sure when my dad decides like, hey, like I'm going to take a little bit more of a bigger step back from the business, then he'll probably slide into that role. And then we can discuss that when that time comes. So.
I'm sure your dad would like you to retire him, right?
No, yeah, I know that. Yeah, we talk a little bit more about that as the years go by, but I mean, he knows that we'll take care of him, and I work every day to take care of my family, and then also his family. I mean, he's taken care of me since I was born.
Yeah.
All the baseball tournaments, everything that I've gone through, like. He was there. He paid for it. It's not like I had a job to.
Right.
Hey, can you drive me down to Florida and pay for this tournament? No, obviously I couldn't, but obviously he could. So, yeah.
So, bigger picture for you. Give us a story. I always talk about stories here. So, if these walls could talk, what's something crazy that's happened in a house or that you've seen? You're doing demolition and something that's hidden in the house that you uncovered. What's the one thing that stands out to you?
So this is actually my fiance is probably not going to be happy talking about this one, but so our house that we live in North Allegheny in McCandless. We redid the entire house when we bought it. It was really, really bad, and then when we redid it, obviously it's gorgeous now. But anyways, we were going through our ducts, getting everything cleaned, and we found like a 85 like Ruger pistol.
Oh wow!
In the duct, like there,
Yeah.
and I was like, what the heck is this doing here?
Right.
So like we're like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. Like so we literally like, okay, well maybe we should call the cops and just see like because I don't want to be any attached to this at all. So he came, got it, and got it out. But that was one story I was just like, that personally happened to me. I was like, this is insane. And then I had some friends that knocked down some walls and found like $1,000, $5,000 here and there.
Wow.
Once you do so many houses here and there, you'll be surprised that people put some stuff behind walls, behind ceilings that you're like, oh my gosh, like.
What's that tell you about the generation prior, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where they would hide their money in the walls or safety, whatever, right? It's a little different than it is now.
So if you find one of those houses with money in the wall, you should get a metal detector and go to the backyard. I guarantee they've got coffee cans that are buried.
There might be more.
Yeah. You're going to find a dozen coffee cans full of $100,000 probably one day.
Hey,
right?
there we go. And then I take that money and I don't know, go to Florida. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the two stories that I think that are worth noting. And then obviously we find old newspapers most of the time, and then mostly really disgusting things because it's crazy to me it just doesn't make any sense on how you can buy a home and you live in it and it just you can just have it deteriorate and it's honestly my passion and what I really enjoy seeing. Okay, we take this house that literally no one wants to even walk into, and then make it into this showcase home where anybody on the block will want to buy it. For instance, one of the flips that we actually just redid in Bakerstown, I owned the rental right next door to it, and for 5 years straight, I called this lady because it was vacant once a week. And said, hey, like you want to sell your house? Hey, you want to sell your house? Then one day out of the blue, she called me and said, hey, I'll sell you the house. So bought that house and it was disgusting inside, and we redid it and it sold in one day. So those are the things that we really enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
well, appreciate you being on the show today. I think we had a really good conversation. How do folks connect with you? Socials, website. What's the best way to get engaged for you to do some work or do an estimate for them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're on Google. You can go on Instagram, Facebook, just Law Construction. You can go on my Instagram as well, ChrisLaw24. But you can find us just Googling us, Law Construction. We have a website you can go through. You can submit a web form for any work, and then our numbers on there. We always That's the biggest thing I think that's different between us and a lot of other people. We always answer the phone. We always show up. We make sure that everything's done properly. If you need anything like after the project's done, okay, hey, yeah, the furnace shut down. Can you come look at this? I'm going to call my guy. In 2 days, he'll be there and get it fixed. I think that's the biggest difference between a successful construction company and one that's not, is actually caring about the customer after you're done,
Right.
after you're paid. Because that's how you're going to get those referrals. That's how you're going to actually have and establish a name that's, hey, call this guy. He finished this job 2 years ago. It's not even in warranty. He came and made sure that everything's done right and done to the proper expectation. So I think that's kind of what's different between us and other people.
Yeah, that speaks volumes about your business right
Yeah,
there,
anytime.
because when you feel that and you know that'll keep your business growing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So.
Another great episode. Stick around. We'll be back for another episode next week. Talk soon.